Welcome back to day 41 of online learning. Today we're going over Unit 8, Lesson 1.3 for math. So for today's video, we're going to be focusing on continuing our work with division and working on division fluency, as well as figuring out story problems. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pull up our lesson goals and objectives for today's video. For today's video, we're focusing on you being able to say, I will be able to solve related division problems, and I'll practice my division facts to work on developing fluency. So those are the two goals that we're working on with today's video. What I have here is a story problem that we're going to try solving together. So it says a grocer made a display of 30 apples with 6 apples in each row. How many rows of apples are there? So I want you to pause me and take notes of the important rules of this problem. So here I have some notes that are important for us to pay attention to when solving this story problem. I see that I'm trying to figure out which of these notes am I trying to figure out with this problem. So is it a grocer made a display of 30 apples? So I know that the total number of apples we're going to have is 30 apples. That's the max we can have, with 6 apples in each row. So a number in each row, there's 6 apples in each. So I know that these 30 apples are getting put in rows equally. And so then a question asks, how many rows of apples are there? So we're trying to figure out the number of rows. Pause and think about an equation that I can use to represent this problem. So if I'm looking at this, I see that there's 30 apples that are going to get broken up into a certain amount of rows with 6 in each. Or there's 30 apples with 6 in each row, and we're trying to figure out how many rows there are. What I want you to do is pause me and think about how I can draw a picture of this. So without even putting an equation yet, I'm going to think about how can I draw this. So I know that there's 30 apples total with 6 in each row. So what I want to do is I'm going to break up 30 into a certain number of rows that I don't know how many, and see how many rows I can make. So I need to make, this is row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I'm making sure that I'm making equal rows. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. And now I know that I need to stop because I got my total of 30 apples. I'm not getting any more than 30 apples. Now I need to see that I know that I have 6 in each row. Each row has 6. And now I need to figure out how many rows there are. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. So my answer is 5 rows of apples. And what we just did, we didn't write an equation, but we figured out that if I did 30 apples and I broke it up into 6 groups, or 6 in each row, I would get 5 rows. Pause me, think about a multiplication equation that can be used to represent this same problem. I could have also figured out if there were blank rows times 6 in each, I would have to get to 30. And then some of you already might have known that 5 times 6 is 30. I just can flip my equation and make it into a multiplication sentence. What I did here is I added another problem, and all I did was just move our picture of how many rows and how many apples there were in each row from this problem to down here. So we still have the notes of how many rows, which we had to figure out, which was 5 rows of apples. There were 6 in each row, and there were 30 total apples. Now I have a problem that I want us to focus on how can we use this problem to help us solve this new problem. So it says a grocer made a display with 42 apples with 6 in each row. How many rows of apples are there? So what I'd like you to do is pause me, and using the same format of number of rows, number in each row, and total number, take notes for this problem. So now it says a grocer made a display with 42 apples. So the total number is 42 apples, and I'm going to make B, our second problem, all in red. And there were 6 in each row. We're trying to figure out how many rows of apples are there. Pause me and compare these two problems, and what do you notice that are the same and different with them? What I notice now with this problem is we're trying to figure out 42 apples broken up with 6 in each row, and we're trying to figure out how many rows there are. So again, we have the same number in each row. So what I can think about is how can I use this picture that we already have of 5 rows with 6 apples in each row to help me solve this problem. So I see since there's already 6 in each row, and I got to 30, now I can just think 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42. All I did right there is I added 2 more rows of 6 to help me figure out what 42 divided by 6 is. I used 30 divided by 6 to help me figure out what 42 divided by 6 is. And the reason that I'm doing that is that sometimes it's easier for me to figure out what 30 divided by 6, and already I might know that that's 5. So I'm using a problem that I know to help me solve a new problem. So I see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that we already had, 6, 7 rows. So there's 7 rows of apples. If you started with 42 apples total and broke it up into rows with 6 in each, you would have 7 rows. So the multiplication sentence that we used for our first problem was 5 times 6 equals 30. For this problem, I used 5 times 6 and then figured out and added 2 rows of 6. So what we did was 5 times 6, which we knew is 30, plus 2 times 6, which is 12, and 30 plus 12 is 42. So we use multiplication by drawing this picture to help us solve for both related story problems. Another way that I could have thought about this is if I skip counted. So I know that if I skip counted, instead of drawing a picture, I could have thought, how many times do I need to count by 6 to get to 30? Or how many times do I need to count by 6 to get to 42? So if I was to skip count, I would know that I would do 6 plus another 6 is 12, plus another 6 is 18, plus another 6 is 24, plus another 6 is 30. So I skip counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times for my first equation, so that means that there would be 5 rows. And then for my second equation, I would do 30 plus 6 is 36, 42. So then I would have to do 5, 6, 7 times I skip counted by 6. So skip counting is also a great way to figure out if I have my total. So what number am I trying to get to? And if I'm counting with 6 in each, I could skip count to get to 42. For your math half due today, you're going to be working on 2 different activities. You're going to be working on pages 468 to 470, which has to do with related story problems, just like we did here, where I used one problem to help me solve another problem. And you're also going to be continuing to work with your division flashcards that you made yesterday. So if you are having trouble with your have to, what I want you to do is think about what multiplication and division facts you already know, just like how we know what 5 times 6 is, and help you use that to help you figure out something that might be unknown. What 7 times 6 equals 42. Break it down into things that are easier for you to solve. What I do is pages 468 to 470, and it's related division problems. So the directions are to solve these problems. You may use cubes, grid paper, drawings, or other math tools to help you, and show your thinking for each problem. In each set, try to use the first problem to help you solve the second problem. So in 1, there are 20 first grade students in Mrs. A's class. If she puts them in groups of 4, how many groups will there be? In B, there are 28 second grade students in Mr. B's class. If he puts them into groups of 4, how many groups will there be? So use A to help you solve for B. If there's 20 first grade students in groups of 4, how many groups will there be? And if there are 28 students in groups of 4, how many groups will there be? So use A to help you solve for B, and make sure you realize that there's 3 pages. And for number 4, it says to write a story problem and solve. So for 4, you're going to make up a story problem by yourself. So for example, I can write, a baker had 54 cupcakes and put them into 9 boxes equally. How many boxes are there in all? So you can make up a story problem to go along with this, and then you need to also solve the problem. I'm going to say again that you need to make sure that you're showing your work, because I'm not able to give you full credit because I don't know how you got your answer if you do not show your work. Here's your have-to slide for today. So it says that you need to complete pages 468 to 470, which is related division problems. And then you also need to then practice your division flashcards that you made from yesterday, and make sure to separate them into piles of facts I know and facts I'm working on. In the pile that is facts I am working on, you should be practicing those at least 3 times each. By doing this is helping you get prepared for 4th grade. You need to be honest and make sure that you're doing this, because the only person that you're hurting if you don't do this is yourself. This is something that you need to be able to do quickly and have them all memorized by 4th grade. So make sure you're being honest with how much time you're actually spending on these and practicing. We're going to be using these flashcards for the rest of the year. And then when you're done with that, you're going to do 15 minutes of IXL only on the highlighted skills. If you look below, you can see a rubric of how you're going to be scored. And to get a 3, you need to say that I worked on all of the problems on pages 468 to 470, showed my work, practiced my division flashcards, and did 15 minutes of IXL. Make sure those IXL skills are only on the highlighted skills.